The Blues' fairy tale run to the 2025 Super Rugby Pacific has come to an end. Their end of form season able just to scrape them in to the finals series, and of course having beaten the Chiefs in that qualifying final, they faced the Crusaders in their semi-final in Christchurch, but it is the Cantabrian side who are able to claim a very tight win to book them spots in the final, and for the Blues ending their 2025 season. I'm Nick from Nickn'detail, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Crusaders Blues game which took place in Christchurch last Friday evening. So let's get into it. That's right, the Crusaders have edged out the Blues in what was a very tight Super Rugby Pacific semi-final in Christchurch on Friday night, their 21-14 win, ensuring that the Christchurch side will host this weekend's Super Rugby Grand Final against the Chiefs, who of course beat the Brumbies in the other semi-final in Hamilton on Saturday evening. But for the Blues, it ends what has been a very impressive end to their season, where of course they just scraped in to the final series and bet what was then the top seeded Chiefs, but unfortunately their season has come to an end in Christchurch. So what my thoughts on this game, I should say. This was a great game to watch, such a tight game. We saw, however, I guess the first part of the game, where the Blues were 14-0 up in that first 20 minutes. We thought, are we going to see Crusaders really blow it at home here? Because the Blues just started so well, and they just looked really, really good every time they had the ball in hand. But it's almost those two tries, I should say, really kicked the Crusaders into gear. They really got going and showed why they've been very much one of the best teams in Super Rugby this season. They were able to tie it up 14-0 at half-time. We saw the discipline as well throughout this game was a big factor as well. We had 2 yellow cards in the first half for head clashes, and I think realistically, even though of course it's for the safety and health of players, I feel like you don't intentionally go and, run into someone's head. I feel like that might be a law change that might need to happen come into next season. Obviously, I guess, stop the game completely, understand, but in terms of actually, sending someone to the bin because of that, it's, I think it is a little bit silly. So I think possibly something that needs to change, because even in the second half, we saw, of course, a yellow card later on from Hoskins to Tutu for the exact same thing. So 3 yellow cards, all 3 because of head clashes. I think once again just showing just how, I guess, the lack of, discipline really, rugby's really got to at the moment in terms of, the sorts of things that can get you, cards. It is a little bit, over the top, maybe just a little bit from me. But indeed, discipline a massive factor in this game as well. And I think for the Blues, unfortunately, that yellow card towards the end cost them, because even though the second half, only that one try, in fact, all the points came from tries and conversions, just showing just how, the way this game was moving in terms of its direction, where teams weren't actually wanting to kick 3 points. They were actually wanting to take on the try and see what they can do. And this really summed up what was a great semi-final in Christchurch. The Crusaders, very much keeping on the pressure on the Blues since conceding those first 2 tries in the opening 20 minutes. And from my view, well-deserved winners there. And of course, with the Chiefs slipping up against the Blues a few weeks ago, they get to host the grand final. So a big advantage for them. Their final game actually at Apollo Project Stadium, for of course they move into their new stadium next season. So of course they'll be wanting to send off what has been their temporary home for the last 13 years off in style, and what should be a great final as well. But this was such a great game to watch, a great classic New Zealand derby semi-final, and we could very well see it again in the grand final with another all-Kiwi matchup. So should be an interesting one to watch indeed. So who was my standout player? Well, I'm going to give a shout out this week to Ethan Blackadder. Now, this guy, over his few years in Super Rugby, has had quite a few injuries, and of course has been very unlucky with injuries, because he's such a great player when he can go, a good month or so without any injuries. In fact, this guy made 29 tackles in the entire game, the most out of anyone in that match, and just showing the kind of work ethic this guy has. And, one that, of course, is very much part of the All Black setup, but of course has very much been, overlooked, the last year or so because of his injuries, but also the lack of opportunity he'll be getting because, therefore, of his injuries. But I feel like, with his performances he's put in this season, yes, he's had once again a few injuries again this season, but he's once again just shown just how reliable he is to have in that Crusaders from, forward pack, but as well, just such a great player to have in terms of your physicality, and that sort of player you really need in those grub matches where they only come down to a few points in margin. So great performance from Ethan Blackadder. He is my standout player this week, a great performance from him. So what's next? Well, as I said, for the Blues, their season is done. What was a very great end to their season, where, of course, they went on a really impressive streak of wins and, of course, scraped into that top 6 just, and then, of course, went and upset the Chiefs, of course, a few weeks ago in Hamilton, down to Christchurch against the Crusaders. It looked like that was going to happen, but it didn't, and that is their season done. They are losing a couple players, more notably Mark Telea is going to Japan next season, so they'll lose what has been a very integral part of their team over the last few years. So, it'll be a big blow to lose him. And of course, they're also losing Harry Plumber as well. They stand out from 2024. He's off to France. So another, big absence. But of course, Bowden Barrett very much came back from a sabbatical in Japan last year, has filled that spot. I don't think it's going to be a massive concern for the Blues anyway. As I said, for the Crusaders, though, they get to host the grand final against the Chiefs. The Chiefs dispatching of the Brumbies quite comfortably 37-17, despite a very tight start to that game in Hamilton on Saturday evening. But the Chiefs just showing their class and getting the job done. But yes, it will be an all-New Zealand final in Christchurch Saturday night, the grand final for 2025. What should be a great final. And of course, as well, for the Crusaders, they get the home final, which is great for them. But for the Chiefs, of course, they'll be relishing the disappointment of losing that qualifying game to the Blues, because had it been the other way around, they'd be hosting the grand final, having finished top of the regular standings. So that's it for me. What was a great tight Super Rugby semi-final has led the Crusaders to a chance to get that Super Rugby crown back. Of course, they've already won 7 crowns in the last decade or so, but of course had that disappointing season last year. But now they can get back on top. For the Chiefs, this is their 3rd straight final appearance. They've lost all their finals they've played in so far over the last few years. Can they get back to winning ways and kind of end that little curse they've been having over the few years of losing in the big final? Well, that's going to be it for me. Until next time, I'll see you later.